Good morning, everybody. Welcome. My name is Jenny Mae Donnell. I am the Black Hills Playhouse Alumni Associate President, and I'm so delighted to see you, all your smiling faces. The thespians of 2003, some of them wonderful, talented individuals that have given of their time to share their memories from 2003. That is my opening remarks. And so, Fred, I turn it over for your self-introduction. Oh, there, what, Fred?
Oh,
Ding!
Morning, campers. Oh, indeed. Welcome, everybody, to the Playhouse Alumni Association Oral History from 2003. As Jenny Mae said, it's delightful to have everybody with us today. I am going to share my screen and get us started by going back in time here a little bit. And put a little historical context on this whole endeavor. You should be seeing now a gray screen, and we'll launch in here now. I like to start with some context. The last oral history was 10 years before this one in 1993. So let's look back to that. Some big things happened in those 10 years. In 94, the distinguished director designer Ralph Koltai visited. There was a transition to an online ticket reservation system that John Ryan engineered. A lot of upgrading in the front of the theater, the concrete and so forth. The restroom got added. That was probably the biggest change. It's cut off there on my screen by your pictures, but the Jill, and John Ryan moved into the old restrooms because of the great big new bathroom and dressing room addition happened. There were some dining hall improvements as well. Also in that range, the 50th anniversary happened and Haberman Hall got built, like you can see there. And the two buffalo logo, the smiling and crying buffaloes, I believe designed by Chris Jones, got adopted and replaced the old Mr. Potato Head logo. The first nudity show, Equus, was on in 1997. I was in that show. Sadly for the audience, I was fully clothed. In 98, I believe that was Hap Haberman's last performances at the Playhouse, but he went on for another 20 years. In 2000, we saw the return of Jared Emick to play Bo in Bus Stop. I'll click through all the shows. People who want to look at this can pause when they watch the video. But that brings us to the current. The 2003 season, we're going to look at all of these shows. Some things to note about that season: it was the fourth time Arsenic and Old Lace was performed, the second time for The Music Man and Pirates, and the other shows had never been seen before. It was a joint appearance by Tyler and Jill. I don't think that had happened ever before. The Music Man had this huge cast, including 20-some non-residential talents, largely from Rapid City, and a whole bunch of darling children. Only these four actors were in all five shows, and cut off on the right there by faces, I think, is Dan Workman. I use the term actor inclusively to include women, none of whom were in all five shows. There were new seats put in the theater. You can sort of see them there under those glamorous actors. And as a happenstance, they were able to use a lot of the old seats as scenery in the play Inspecting Carol. We're going to look at the company for a little bit. There are over 110 company members over the course of that season, over 50 in Music Man alone, and I think that's probably a record. We'll click through these fast, pause later if you want to study it. Had a band as well. And we'll take a moment to remember those who have passed. They didn't die that year, don't want to confuse you, but they're no longer with us now. Phyllis Dixon, Travis Halsey, Myrna Heineck, Eric Johnson, Ron Moyer, Kevin Noteboom, and Ed Stauffer. And we'll take just a moment to look at the new members of the company that year. There was a big class of newbies. These were all in residence, by the way. These weren't townies. These, on the other hand, were the townies, the people that came in for Music Man. These are the second-year members. They were eligible to become Buffaloes, and I can't remember which ones did, although I know Justin Speck did. He was a great one. These are the folks who were there for 10 years or more, myself included. The numbers appear to be cut off on my screen. Ron Moyer had 26, and then going down from there. Some things I'd like to point out on this list. There were 14 on that list. Compared to 93, there were only 6 who had been there for 10 years or more. Of these 14, 12 of them are men. Don't know what to make of that. 3 of them have passed on, and 5 of these folks were in the 1993 panel. One was Michael Creclio, who, by the way, was in the 2003 season, and he was on deck to be a guest star today if somebody was unable to attend. With that, let's meet the panel. Get ready, everybody. These are our panelists, and this is the order in which you are going to be speaking. Jenny May, you're making gestures.
Yeah,
Do you have
in the history, before you start, can I
Yep.
just add a few things?
You may.
History-wise, please?
You may.
May I? 1993, the board voted to do 2 matinees on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and no Sunday night performance. And the show, so then that meant that Sunday night they could strike and hopefully begin rehearse Monday morning. In 1994, I thought this was interesting. There were 63 company members from 18 states plus the UK, 22 working professionals, 11 faculty members, 15 grad students, 12 undergrads, and SAG, AEA, and United Scenic Artists Association were all, there were members from all of those. You mentioned Ralph Koltai. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, in 1999, Janet Brown helped write a grant for the National Endowment of the Arts, with the National Endowment of the Arts, to start the Children's Theater Program, which they hired Dan and Deb. And in 2000, the year 2000, which was their first year, it was fully booked. So it has been a big success for the Playhouse. And then electrical system in 2000 was needed. The Jagger fire of 2000 cost a lot of money. There's a lot of back and forth about the finances and how difficult it was during this time, these 10 years, and cash flow problems. The audiences were happy with the shows, but technically, and the wonderful tech, but the financial records didn't bring happiness to the board, and cash flow was a problem and continued problem, although it was worked out. There was a Helen Davis fund of $50,000 and Mac Construction from Rapid City, and the Encore program all helped with renovations for the dining hall, physical plants, new seats, new roof and deck on dining hall. And so what they learned was that the up and down with ticket sales is that ticket sales do not cover expenses. I mean, we all knew that, but that's really what was learned vividly in 2000, in these 10 years. And so interesting, in 2002, I did a curtain raiser called Bustin' Loose and brought Jeff Kingsbury and several performers back. And Jeff Kingsbury began to be back at the Playhouse sometime after this. And luckily, him being asked, him running and being director of development has really helped stabilize the Playhouse and its finances. So that I just wanted to throw those in. Thank you.
Hey, you bet. And that gets us then to introductions. I'm going first because I'm the host. Fred Mackelman is my name. I'm coming to you from Minneapolis. I started at the Playhouse sort of 50 years ago exactly, in 1976. I was at the American College Theater Festival in Vermillion And Lenny Anderson, who was running the show, saw me perform and offered me a job. Well, I couldn't do it in 76, but I did come out in 77. And then I was on and off a few years. 89, though, was a big year because the Swanks had taken over and I came out. And that began a run of 15 years in a row at the Playhouse, um, staying in the sands most of that time, having a great time. In 2003, I was in two shows. I was in Pirates and I was in Music Man. But I was kind of a townie by then. I had bought property and I was no longer living in camp, so it was a different kind of a year for me. And since the Playhouse, I've continued to act, but mainly throughout all those years, my focus has been education. And I've been teaching. I retired from teaching about 11 years ago, but I still work at a high school. And yesterday I stopped in the office, see if this can come into focus. I picked up a cup. I can't get it to come into focus, but it's the 2003 yearbook from the high school I work at, just to kind of get in the mood and to see what it was like. So that's my story. Jenny May, let's turn it over to you. Tell us about your Playhouse story.
Well, my Playhouse story is, of which thank you for making me do this. I finally notated it. It's been confusing. And so, and actually in the backstage on my makeup mirrors where I had written the years I was at the Playhouse. And once I didn't have that, I didn't know. Hey, I didn't know. So Uncle Fred asked me and I put it back together. And actually I grew up in Hot Springs. It allowed me as a young girl to see the Playhouse, and the Playhouse was very important to Hot Springs and Dock. It was one of the major towns, and it was always a part of my life, hearing about it, going to see it. And then in 1978, I became part of the company, and then actually I figured out that over 40 years, I've been in 15 different seasons. And so it's both from being fully in the company in the earlier years, and then from 2001, which is what we're headed into this era, for me, it began sprinkling through depending on their need. And actually, I'm grateful that the Playhouse was able to bring me in during the 2000s because my parents were passing away, and it was great to be home, and I'm grateful for that. My life has gone. I've been an actor, a director, and built shows. My connections that I had at the Playhouse actually serviced me well, got me to London with Keith Warner in the English National Opera, Sunday with Pacific Overtures, which was an 11-week long rehearsal period.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And Robert Neff Williams from New York City. I got to go and study with him. A connection from the Playhouse, a director, and also Uta Hagen, and have New York years in New York. And I ran the Children's Theater in Circuit 21 and acted there. Did a tour of Sunday in the Park with George, and then also Jeff Kingsbury, whom I met in '83. I ended up spending almost 20 years working out of his Olympia Theater. But at this time, when I get back to the Playhouse 2001 through 2005, Menno and I are working with Live on Stage, and we're running around doing 35,000 miles a year in helping organizations book their concert artists, and from Northern California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, Nevada, and we help service them and also give all these wonderful classical, not classical, but wonderful national and international artists tours. So that's at this time what I was just starting for the next 20 years, along with coming back to the Playhouse. So I owe the Playhouse a great debt. And this reminds me, for all of you, if you want to write what the Playhouse did for me, how it helped springboard you into your life in the theater, we would love to get those. We would love to have you come to the reunion July 24th through 26th. And please get your tickets and please come. Let us know you're going to be there. And we'd love to hear your stories and anytime about what the Playhouse did for you.
Great. Thank you so much, Jenny May. And let's pass off now to Kelsey Collier-Wise, her seventh season. Go ahead, Kelsey.
Really am loving Jenny May floating in space. I just have to like comment on that. It's just like an astronaut out there. It's amazing. Uh, so yes, that was my seventh and actually final season was 2003. That was the last year that I was out. Um, I kind of grew up out at the Playhouse because of my dad, Ron Moyer, started bringing me out when I was like 4. So those 7 seasons were years where I actually had a job, like where I was getting paid to do a thing and not just running around and being an annoying child. I was in the ticket office that year, I think for like either the third or fourth year. And I actually really loved like the way of the ticket. It showed me a lot, I think, about what I wanted to do with my life, that putting things in order was something that really appealed to me. And, you know, Chris Carnes was my mentor in ticket officing. Since then, I'm not really a theater person. I just like theater people, I figured out. So that was like the last involvement I had in anything theatrical other than as an audience member. But I do have a 16 or nearly 16-year-old who is a theater kid and actually just got a shout out at State One Acts this year for her prop watermelon, which she worked very hard on. She's very into props. And yeah, that most of the time this was like my summer job, right? Like I would go out like as a summer job as a high schooler and work in the ticket office or work in the snack bar. And I always think that like that's pretty much like the coolest thing that a high school kid can do during the summer, right? Is get to be out in the middle of nowhere with a bunch of college weirdos. And it was such an important part of my life growing up and affected me so much and it was so important to my family. So I have like a lot of memories about my time at the Playhouse, but it's so tied to me to childhood in a way that like 2003 I had just graduated from college. So I was finishing up my childhood and then going on to be, I guess, an adult. So after that, I worked for a congresswoman. I worked for public broadcasting. I went to law school. And then for the last almost 14 years, I've been the director of United Way in Vermilion. I came back to Vermilion, my hometown, best town in the world. And I also,
Don't forget, Kelsey, don't forget you were also mayor of Vermilion for a brief bit, right?
I was mayor of Vermilion. I was on the city council for a number of years, and then I was a COVID mayor. It sucked. It was terrible. But Vermilion had the lowest death or hospitalization rate in all of South Dakota. So I take a lot of pride in that. Um, yeah, it's a great town, and I got to be able to spend a lot more time with my family. Um, you know, in the years before Ron passed, we actually all lived together in one house when my daughter was little, and so I got to spend a lot of time with him in those last few years after he retired, basically right when she was born, and so he was always around, and that was also like a really awesome and great blessing in my life. So.
Great. Well, thank you, Kelsey. And go also with 7 years, Wendy Stark Pride. Take it away, Wendy.
Hi, everybody. I actually started in 1989 at the Playhouse because I was going to grad school at the University of South Dakota. And so that was my first year. I was there 89 to 91. And frankly, I remember next to nothing about that time period whatsoever. I know I was there, I know I worked, but I do not remember anything. After that, I went on and I worked at the Omaha Community Playhouse. And the reason I got that job was from Steve. I wish I could remember his last name. I want to say Steve Miller, but that is not right. Who was the TD at the time, got me the job at the Omaha Community Playhouse, where I started as a draper before I even finished graduate school. So that is a wonderful thing that the Black Hills Playhouse, one of the many things that Black Hills Playhouse brought to me was my very first job. And it's been a whirlwind ever since then. From then, I moved on to Creighton University, where I was teaching, and that's where I met Travis Halsey and Autumn Klimmer. And because of them, I decided it was time to come back to the Black Hills Playhouse. So I called Jan All right, called USD in 2000, and I said I'd really like to come back and design again. So I came back that season and well sent them out there first, and then they would call me every week and tell me what was going on and how excited they were. Then I came out and I designed 2 shows, and during that time I met my current husband and still husband, Mark Pry, and changed, basically exploded my entire life from that moment on. And so I was then at the Playhouse consistently from 2000. My resume says till 2006, but I don't think that's right. I think I'm missing some things. But during 2003, I was the costume designer for Music Man and for Of Mice and Men, 2 shows I'm incredibly proud of. Um, 2003 was also the year that Mark graduated from Yale. So during that summer, I went up to St. Mike's and worked. We graduated him, packed everything in boxes. He didn't have a job. We didn't know where we were going. I went up and worked at St. Mike's Playhouse, came and did Music Man, went back to DC where he'd gotten a job, found us a place to live, came back out, did Music Man, and then moved to DC where I started working at the Washington National Opera. I was a draper with them for several years. Then I went and taught at the University of Montana. So I was coming back and forth and doing Playhouse summers there. From the University of Montana, I went to Washington, D.C., where I was the costume director at the Shakespeare Theater Company in Washington, D.C. In 2016, Mark got a job at the Goodman, where he is currently the TD at the Goodman Theater Company. And in 2017, I moved here to Chicago, the Chicago area. And for the last 9 years, almost 9 years, I have been the managing director of the Drury Lane Theater, which is a nonprofit theater right outside of Chicago. I was their production manager in the beginning. I made that transition from costume director into production management, and now I run a theater. So, yeah, it's kind of scary. But that's my transition. And honest to God, I could not have done it with all the things that I learned at the Playhouse. So it's been one hell of a journey.
Oh, Wendy, thank you. And I love that energy. It hasn't slowed you down at all. Jason's next. Reuter with 6 years. Go ahead, Reuter.
Thanks. My first, I grew up in New Jersey and I ran away to South Dakota because it was the farthest school that accepted me. Um, and I was plotting my escape for the first 3 years to get out of here until the Easter break of 1997. Cassie Joe, Tall Paul, Ryan Parker Knox, and Mo Schrank and I all came out to the Playhouse. Well, actually, we came out to the Hills to just spend the weekend. And man, over a couple of beers, that's an incredible story to share. But that was my first time seeing the Playhouse. We parked up at the front of the camp um, and just wandered around in the winter there. So then that summer, I did not get hired until Cody Blomberg backed out, and I called Jan and begged, said, "Hey, please, I hear you lost a general technician. Please just let me come out." And that, I tell you what, was perhaps the best thing that happened, because as a result, I launched this whole technical career that I would not have even considered without that experience that summer. Cutting a circle out of the middle of a sheet of plywood and Tim K screwing it up to the side of the prop shop to teach me not to do that. I came back year after year. The next year I got to come back as an actor. I've been there several years. I won't go through all of them, but eventually, after the Swanks left in 2006, I swore I'd never come back. And I had moved finally to New York City. I got as far as being a technical director for an off-Broadway theater, the Barrow Street Theater down in the Village, and found myself making $430 a week off Broadway in New York City. And I was like, this is unacceptable. And then John Ryan posted on the BHP net that the community theater needed a technical director. And I said, well, hell's bells, I can go live in the hills and still get to do some theater. Moved out here. Eventually, within a month, I met my now wife, Ingrid Johnson, who's an alum from 2000. And then several years we worked there together. She was the business manager from 2014 or 13 through 2016. I ended up being the operations manager for all of those years. And then when we had our second son, it just ended up being too much. We decided to pick the kids over the theater. And I left and had a bunch of odd jobs. Eventually started a business called Against the Grain. I get to make wooden art for a living, well, for money at any rate. And the rest of the time, it's raising my kids. Ingrid works for First Interstate Bank. She's the corporate facilities manager, so she's the breadwinner of the family. And that actually has let me go back to the Playhouse again. Last year, I got to play Hercule Poirot in Murder on the Orient Express, and then I'll be going back this summer to be in the complete history of the United States abridged. And actually, right now, I'm in the process of hiring the technicians for the summer and conducting interviews. And it's been a wild ride. And the Playhouse was so instrumental in all of it. I tell all the kids that I interview that I used to quit jobs to come back to the Playhouse because I loved it out there so much. But I also talk about you meet kids who have gone into college and they have the perfect textbook theater. They've got a full fly system and the full scene shop is attached to it, and they don't know how to do theater because the Playhouse taught you how to be creative without all of the means and to really think through a problem. I was talking about building in the scene shop back when it was Sherdloo. Like you had a 7-foot roof. How are you supposed to build a 10-foot flat? And just
I
all of the
lived in Sherdloo, by the way.
did my mother-in-law back in '77. Kathleen.
All right. I'm not sure if you're finished, Jason. Don't want to cut you off, but if you're done, let's switch to Matt Conley in his 5th. That's 5 seasons. Go ahead, Matt.
Go away, Matt. Sure. Hey, Brett. Not the first time I've heard that one. Yeah, so I came out to the Playhouse in, I believe, '98. Yeah, Harold Hynek had taken over our theater department at Chadron State College that year, and he'd worked out at the Playhouse for a number of years. Had several of us come out and audition. So yeah, I came out and auditioned at one of the big cattle calls in Rapid City and got hired. I think I had 3 shows that first season, which was a ton of fun. So yeah, I came back year after year after year. One of my favorite places to be. 2003, like Kelsey, was my last season there because I had just recently graduated. And right out of college, I went and did several children's theater shows, some of which were with Children's Theater of South Dakota, and then moved on to Bridgework Theater. And then from there, I also met my wife in 2003 at the Black Hills Playhouse, Meredith Connolly, and moved down to Austin, Texas, where I am still currently. Became a teacher for a number of years, and then transitioned over to a professional development consultant, then a customer success manager, which I'm doing currently. So still a working actor. I've got several shows coming up, several TV shows that I've done, and another one coming up in a couple of months. So be on the lookout for that Lioness on Paramount Plus.
Cool.
Don't forget to tell Mark Mearsman so we can get it in the newsletter.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. And let's go to Cassie Jo Romano, her 4th season. Go, Cassie.
Hi, everybody. You guys look great, by the way. Everyone looks so good. I see Justin. You're on there. Hi. Sorry, my memory is not great. It's so I apologize if my dates are messed up, but I think my first like official introduction to the Playhouse was with Jan Swank, and he was guest directing a show at USD, and he cast me as the lead in that show. So that was my first introduction to meeting Jan, and then he asked me to come out to the Playhouse that summer. I think it was 97, maybe 98, and I couldn't make it, but I did go out the following summer, 99, I believe. And yeah, I was out there 5 summers, you said?
I said six. I
Five,
said four,
five, I
but
don't
I
know,
could be
four.
wrong.
Let's go for it. Let's go for it. Yeah, but I had the best time. I met the most amazing people. Um, Best memories of my life at the Playhouse, and I still have um, the the same friends, to this day. So I'm super grateful to Jan and the Playhouse. And then after 2003, I think was my last summer, and then I moved to Los Angeles. I went to grad school. I became a behavior therapist for kids and adults with autism. And then I moved to Texas for a while. And then I moved to the East Coast, where I've been since 2011. Um, I'm I live in Reuter's old stomping grounds in New Jersey, and um, yeah, and I've done community theater along the way. I did some community theater in Texas, and I'm involved in a few community theaters in New Jersey, and yeah, I think that's it.
Got it. Thanks,
Yeah.
Cassie. And with 3 years, let's go to Holly Jacobs. Take it away, Holly.
Hi. Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of how I ended up. I ended up at the Playhouse. I worked at the Post Playhouse in Nebraska, in Nebraska, and I met my ex-husband there. And then he went to get his graduate degree at USD. So when I traveled with him there, that's when I was in a show, Three Penny Opera, with Eric Johnson, and it was directed by Jan Swank. And then from there, he invited me to come to the Playhouse, and I worked at the Playhouse from 2021, I think, until 2027, if I'm correct. Yes, so that's the span that I worked there. And then actually got pregnant at the Playhouse, and then I had my child Ethan, and Ethan is profoundly affected by autism, and so is my second child, and that's when my life changed, like, drastically. Like, theater was not even in my mind. And so I became a stay-at-home mom for a really long time. And then I went back to school and got my teaching certification in secondary education in speech and theater. And I have been doing that for years now. And yeah, I'm a middle school teacher, and that's what teaching theater. That's what I do.
Oh,
Awesome. And with 3 years as well, Elizabeth Ellis. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Hi, you guys. It's so great to see you. It's so fun. I grew up in Rapid City, and so I grew up going to the Playhouse. I remember my first show when I was 5 years old, going and seeing Grease, and just thinking it was awesome. And just as like a summer treat, being able to go to the Playhouse, which was so fun. And then Jan helped make my dreams come true when he hired me in 2000, and I got to perform 6 shows a week. And it was like what I always wanted to do since I was 9 years old. And finally, I got to live with amazing people in the most beautiful place in the world, doing theater and learning technical theater. And yeah, I loved it. And I lived in New York City. I was out there for 5 summers, and I lived in New York during those like sporadic 10 years. And I really feel like the Black Hills Playhouse saved me, because I was from Rapid City, and New York City is a concrete jungle. And without those stints at the Playhouse, I would have not made it for a decade in New York City. And the community out there and the friends, I just have the best memories of being at the Black Hills Playhouse. At some point, Andy and I, also a BHP alum, Andy Welchschmidt, and I got married at Center Lake, quarter mile from the Black Hills Playhouse, because it was such a special place. And then I started a dance school. We moved to Denver. I started a dance school 16 years ago, and have been doing that. And I keep thinking, like, oh, once the dance school is off the ground, I can like leave for the summer and go try to perform as an old lady at the Playhouse. But no, then we had 2 kids, and my business has really kept me busy. So someday I will go back to the Playhouse when life lightens up. And one more thing. So right now my life is like managing a business and teaching and choreographing, and I love to teach dance because it keeps me creative and in the studio, dancing, moving. And last year, I was very honored to be named Colorado Dance Educator of the Year by the Colorado Dance Education Organization. So that was really special, and I was surprised and shocked and very proud. So the Playhouse
congratulations.
has
Wonderful.
been wonderful. Thank you.
Hey, you bet. Thank you, Elizabeth. And rounding us out, the run to the litter, the youngest, or the least senior, I should say, of years, Justin Speck in his second year. I'm so glad you got a picture going. Justin, tell us about yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me get back to where I'm at. Okay. I had always been a patron of the Black Hills Playhouse since the 80s. I remember seeing Jared Emick in numerous shows when he was still in high school and college. And then I moved to New York, and then I think many of you know that I was living there during 9/11, and 6 months after that, moved back to South Dakota. And I wanted to keep it a secret because I wasn't going to stick around in the Black Hills. I was just trying to figure out what my next life path was going to be. And Eric Johnson had approached me the summer of 2002 and said, "Hey, I just lost my choreographer. He can't do it. And I need somebody to do Pippin." And I'm like, "Oh, I've done Pippin before. I would love to choreograph that." Never choreographed, never been on staff, never been an actor at the Black Hills Playhouse. And it absolutely is one of the reasons why I stuck around the Black Hills. It was such a great experience. And I see the smirk on Jason Reuter's face because Becca had no idea there was this much dancing in this show. I thought I was just going to be a clown and walk around. I made him. You were great, Jason, by the way, as were all of you that were in that show. It was a fine experience. I've done 10 seasons at the Black Hills Playhouse in the last 24 years. My last season, I think it was 22. The year we did Odd Couple, I played Vinny. And then I think that was the same season as, what was the show? Something Rotten, and I played Nostradamus. Haven't been back since because of me getting ready to retire. Like so many of you, our lives go through so many changes. And even though I've stayed in Rapid City and have occasionally done a show or two at the Black Hills Playhouse, being the artistic director of Central High School has kept me incredibly busy. And, you know, I'm only 58. And so people often ask me, why is it that I'm retiring so early? And I'm looking forward to not having this schedule. This job is the greatest thing I've ever done in my life. And without the experiences that I've had at the Playhouse and being able to learn in that environment, I've used so many things with my own program here at Central from things that I've learned at the Playhouse. It's been a great synergy between the two. But this little boy is tired, and so he's looking forward to retirement. Am I going to go back to the Playhouse sometime soon? Not real sure, but I will certainly maintain my patronage. I think it's a magical place in the woods, and I'm so glad it's been around for 80 years.
Oh, thank you, Justin, and thanks to everybody.
Hey, Fred, we have an additional guest.
We do? Who is that?
Hold on. Should be coming. Maybe. There we go.
Oh. The suspense.
Yeah. He needs to go off mute. There we go.
Hello.
And come on video.
Hello.
Harold Hynek. We knew Harold was going to be late, but we didn't announce him in case he had a technical problem or something. Harold, you arrived at a perfect time if you are prepared in any way to do a little self-introduction. Everybody else just finished, so you couldn't have come at a more perfect time. So why don't you tell us about yourself, and then we'll go on to our next topic. Perfect time.
I'm Harold.
All right. Anything else?
Let's see. 2000. This is 2003 was my 9th season, I think. I came in.
I'll look it up. I'll get back to you. But
I came in at the
go
50th
ahead.
on 95. I'm now living in Central Missouri. That's where I'm at right now, and I don't know what everybody's doing for introductions.
Okay, well, we'll probably be able to learn more about you as we go ahead, but let's just resume the agenda. The next thing I wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about was communication at the Playhouse, because that was one thing going back to the late 70s. That was always, I'm hearing, I think I'm just getting feedback.
That's
I
Harold.
think you came in with Harold.
Are you like hanging out at a mall, Harold? Where are you?
I'm at a documentary film festival right now, so
Maybe, Harold, could you turn off your mic, and maybe that would help with the background noise. Oh, there we go. And then turn it on when you have something to share, and we hope you do have lots to share. But when you compare one decade to another, all those early ones, as far as communication, seemed to blur together. I remember in '77, my first year, we wrote letters because the phone system was so bad. And of course, there wasn't any internet or Wi-Fi or email. And nothing much changed. But you get to 2003 and things had started to become a little bit different. I remember in '77, we had radio, at least. And I remember that was the summer that Elvis Presley died. And that was how I kept track of that, was just by the radio in the shop and whatnot. But 2003, things like the internet and cell phones and things, those existed, but they weren't out at the Playhouse yet. And, or they were starting to go out there. So I thought it was a nice time to sort of talk and reflect on that. I remember for most of those years, though, the way we would learn, those of you on staff, if you needed to be contacted by a vendor or someone, Jill would come out on the steps and holler for you, and you'd wander up to the business office, seeing a lot of nodding heads. And then as far as communicating with friends and family back home, you had to go down to the snack bar, one phone for everybody. It was pretty hard. And on the one hand, it was kind of nice. You lost all that touch of civilization, but things have changed. And I thought Kelsey might be an interesting one to turn to on this, because the box office, the ticket office, is where technology usually made its presence known first. So Kelsey, any thoughts on that general topic?
Yeah, I was thinking about that and about kind of the trajectory. We, at that point, I think we were maybe 3 years into John Ryan's computer ticketing, which was like a big change from, we used to have a folder for every single show that you would just open up the folder and it would have the seating and you would mark it off with a pencil. And then if somebody canceled, you'd have to erase it and things like that. And so we had moved to this ticketing program where it was all on computers. So we had computers in the ticket office. And then I think in 2000 or 2000, I think, we were able to get internet, but it wasn't consistent. So Abby Cook and I had brought like all of those like free AOL CDs that used to get. So we would sign up for like a month of free AOL
wow.
so that we could do, and we had a little bit of, we could like let certain people use it or not. So there was a little power there, which is pretty great. Like be nice to the ticket office girls and you might be able to get on the internet occasionally. But I think by 2003, my memory is that there was more consistent internet and it wasn't available to everyone, but like people could come and take turns and use the computers and they were attached to the internet. Does that sound right?
I remember having to go to the back room in the ticket office in the old theater to be able to access the internet.
Yes.
I remember in 2005, myself and Tyler and Val and Lauren Essen, we got a place off of Craigslist down in Austin, Texas, by using the internet in that back office.
Yeah, so there was internet like more consistently available, but it was like not, it wasn't a free for all. Like you had to like get permission to use it and things like that. And I do remember people, I did not have a cell phone at that time, but there were people with cell phones, but the only way that they could get a signal was like climbing the hill behind the
Behind
two-story,
Peaceful Pines.
Yeah.
Behind Peaceful Pines. I
and
used to go
like
up with my lawn chair and my cell phone and try and get to the top and
and
make
you'd
a
see
phone
people
call.
like wandering around like looking for a signal, but
Mhm.
We call that cell phone ridge now.
But I remember coming back a few years later and everybody having phones and everybody having internet, and that honestly, it felt like such a tragedy to me.
Mhm.
Like, I was
Mhm.
like, that's taking all of the being isolated as part of the fun. And, even I often stay out at Camp Remington in the summer, like which is not very far from the Playhouse at Remington Road. And it used to be that was a place with no cell phone service. And even in the last like 3 years now, like we can't tell the kids like, oh, you can't use your phone. Sorry, no cell phone service, because they can absolutely get a signal now.
Keep it down, would you, Kelsey? My kids can hear you.
I
In
remember chanting.
2003, I was commuting most of the time, and I did have dial-up internet at my house, but not at camp. Harold, you got something to say?
Well, I remember there was a chant for a while, no phones on the hill, no phones on the hill. Whenever somebody would start to have a conversation out there, it was just like you're violating the sacred space with your technology. As we would sneak off and get into the back room to do our business on the computer, uh, those of us who had access to ticket office personnel to let us in.
And it made me wonder. I was in Music Man. I can't remember how we communicated things like rehearsal schedules and stuff. Because when you're in camp, you just got all that at breakfast, after the frying pan got dinged in. But Justin, maybe you can remember, how did you let people know that they had a dance rehearsal and all that kind of stuff? And Wendy, how did people know about fittings? Do you remember?
Hell if I know. I didn't even remember there were 50 people in that show.
Oh
I'm like,
yeah,
how did we do all those costumes for the love of God?
exactly.
I I'm like, what was I thinking?
Panties of rage. Panties of
Panties
rage.
of Rage. Jenny May wants me to tell the Panties of Rage story. So I'll just throw this in really quick. When I started working at Yale, a friend of mine who was a stitcher there gave me a pair of these pink frilly panties, and you had to put them on your head when you got really pissed off because you could not be mad if you had frilly panties on your head. So they became the Panties of Rage. So they would come out with me every summer. And we would just wear them around the costume shop. If you got mad, you put the panties on your head, and hopefully that could calm everything down and you could start laughing. And like I said, hopefully, I think they're still somewhere here in the house. But I don't remember how we did. I know we did it in the morning, and I would assume at the end of the rehearsal day, somebody had to know what was going on the next day to do the fittings. But I, honest to God, don't know how we ever did that without computers. I look
I
at
remember. Sorry.
Go ahead, Holly.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
no, if I remember correctly, I feel like you would send someone to tell us, like you have a fitting at noon, or your fitting is at this time, and then you'd be like, okay, thanks, and then you would show.
Come up and
show
tell
But that
up.
wasn't for the townies, though.
Oh, okay. Are you talking about
And
just for the people who lived in town?
I think
Okay.
they just knew when they had to come in, and then they just
I
fitted
think they
in
were just
all
there
for
all
when they
day.
were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was
yeah, remember the barbershop quartet guys set up that little camper village across from the
Oh
dining hall?
yeah.
yeah,
Jeez.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Alpilt's
think you just
camper.
run and go get the next
Get
person.
them, yeah.
Like, okay, I'm done with my fitting. Cassie Joe, go. And you
Yeah.
just
I
tell,
must
like,
have had
grab
some
next.
sort of schedule. I must have had some sort of idea at that point in time what we were going to do that day. But yeah, I don't know how we did it.
Harold, could you mute again? It's getting a lot of back. There we go. Much, much better. Now that you're talking about it, my memory is being refreshed a little bit. I think old-fashioned answering machines were a big part of it. I remember being at home, getting a lot of messages on my phone about what was happening the next day. But if that fell apart, you got people like me, like the folks from Rapid driving all the way out to camp, and maybe they didn't have rehearsal at all, and it wasn't ideal. Well, wonderful. Any other thoughts, Jen, on that general topic?
Well, you know what? I do want to chime in a little bit.
Yeah.
Kelsey said that she felt it was a bit of a tragedy that internet
Interesting.
and cell phone has come in, and it kind of is. I've been out there in recent years, and for example, this last summer, it was the Saturday night, the Saturday night before the final performance of Murder on the Orient Express, and I had one beer left, and everybody at staff was old and had gone to bed. So I was like, well, I'm gonna climb the hill and look for some shenanigans. And I went up the hill, and no one was out.
Oh, geez.
No one was on the porch. No one was in the living room of the Copa. And I ran into one kid, and I said, well, where the hell is everybody? He says, well, four of us, we're going to go into town and get some Taco Bell. You want to come? I'm like, no, I want shenanigans. I want to play rock in a cup or something. Let's do something. But
you needed a good game of Frisbee golf. That's what you needed at that point in time.
They don't play it anymore. I had to.
That was the most fun.
Well, in 2003 was the origin of Flacco Yo-Yo, I believe.
Oh
that
my
was
God.
the first Flacco Yo-Yo was 2003, right? Because that would have been Flacco's first season. So
you know what? Speaking
you
of
made your own
Flacco,
fun. You can't make your own fun if you've got the internet.
Yeah,
that's just it. They all go up the hill and they watch their movies. They call their friends, and there's no jug band. There's no Frisbee golf.
The jug band.
We used to go,
yes,
Jenny
I
May would take
apologize
us
to
skulking we'd go over to Center Lake and we'd just drive around real slow with the lights off. And Jenny May called it skulking. And that's what you would do for an evening. Like nobody with the internet is going to come up with that.
And I would yell, you're nobody unless you take your blouse off. And some people did.
Yeah.
You'd go car surfing at Center Lake.
Oh, no, nobody does that.
No,
that never happened.
Now, to be fair, Rooter, we did have Twin Peaks nights where that was, appointment viewing.
Well, I feel like I remember
Twin Peaks, the long-running TV series, or what?
Yeah.
Somebody had the
videotape.
box set. Yeah.
I remember that.
What's a
Brian
video
Parker
tape?
I forgot, somewhere in that decade, John Ryan hooked up a TV antenna on the Sands. I don't remember when, but I did have color TV, one channel in the Sands for a few years ahead of everybody else. So that was pretty cool.
Uncle Fred, when you were saying how you lived in Sands all of those years, and when you moved off and you were living down there on Reno Gulch Road, there was one summer that they put all of these fuddy-duddies in the Sands, and they were so boring that me and a handful of guys, we stole the porch. Because people would sit on the porch and they'd clean out the window. Shut up, people are trying to sleep. Like, okay, well then we're taking the porch over to Copa.
That's an interesting story. I remember visiting the camp off campus or off season in the winter one year, and I noticed the porch was up at the 2-story. Was that you?
That's where we ended up talking it, and then some volunteers came in and they rebuilt it proper.
Okay. Oh, that's funny. All right. Well, other thoughts share later, but I think we better get to the shows of the season or we won't forget. And as we're discussing these, there may or may not be some video rolling, but let's go in order, talk about the plays that were produced that summer. And you need to unmute Harold because you are the designated kickoff person to tell us your recollections about Inspecting Carol. Okay, Harold, take it away. Now, there may be video, may not. We'll see.
Okay, well, the big thing I can remember from Inspecting Carol was how much fun it was to ride the collapsing platform down when it went berserk. That's a big memory I had. Carrying Liam Duffy around on my shoulder all the time was a heck of a workout, but a lot of fun. And then there was that great lemon between your thighs scene. That was just, it was delicious. We all had so much fun extracting that lemon and squeezing the lemon between our buttocks and all of that. I mean, those are my big memories from it.
My
All
favorite
right,
was
and Mark,
Jan's.
congratulations. The video is rolling. So we'll just talk over this. Anybody who'd like to chime in. I didn't even see this show, I'm afraid, because I hadn't moved out to camp yet.
It was a
Yeah, Doug
wonderful
Finlayson
set.
directed
I loved
it.
the set. Loved it.
The other
My
thing I
favorite was
remember about this show was there was a time where someone forgot to come in, and we were all on stage at the same time, and someone was supposed to make an entrance, and they forgot to make an entrance, and all of us just froze. We were not very good improvisers at that moment, and then I feel like I remember that I just panicked and I started to say a line that I thought was close to what maybe we were, but by me saying that, I skipped a big chunk that was really important for the plot.
it was Bob
And then Dan
Arriaga.
Workman had to come back and say, like at the beginning of Act 2, had to like work in so the rest of the show would make sense. That's the only thing I really remember about this show.
It was Bob Arriaga standing off stage left
Okay, you
in the
remember.
sunlight, glowing blue as one of the ghosts of Christmas past, just watching us. And like, wow, they're really good tonight.
I think Robert had like narcolepsy. He fell asleep driving a few times. I think that like he like sometimes would just go somewhere
Okay.
else.
Yeah. So that must have happened. And I just remember like we all just were like, yeah.
My other favorite was
on stage with Jan Swank again. It was
Well,
great
remember
to have Jan on stage.
Jan ad-libbed that line to you as he was watching Sam goof off on stage or something, and he leaned over to you and he just said, "I hate young people."
It's great to be with Jan on stage again and everybody.
Yeah.
Mark, oh, there we go. Jan, by the way, was in the 1993 panel. It was wonderful to be able to see him. And Holly, your story about, or Cassie, excuse me, your story about missing entrances. Of course, there are legendary missed entrances stories out there. Too many to go into here in the time we have, but holy moly, live theater.
We're doing 1776 again this summer, so we have an opportunity to repeat it.
That's right. That's right.
That's a legendary one. I've heard.
Yeah,
I wasn't even there, and I still know the story of that.
Oh.
that
Yeah.
missed entrance.
Yeah.
That's become the RPK story from 1776 is legendary in the Twin Cities community theater or theater community as well. Very, very, very famous. All right.
The sad thing about that show, about the first show, was we didn't have very good audiences. I don't remember if the weather was nasty, but we really suffered small audiences for that show, and
that's a shame.
Yeah, it was.
But let's switch now to Arsenic and Old Lace. And yeah, Mark, apparently the video is working. It looked pretty good on my screen. I want to thank Wendy Stark-Pry for the pictures. She was able to find a CD of all the production shots, and most of the photos that you're seeing are from her. But how about Matt? You had a nice role in Arsenic. Why don't you start us off?
Yeah, the Arsenic Old Lace, that was directed by Ron. Yeah, that was a great show. Just a really good cast. We had Jill in that show. Sam. Reuter, you were in that show, weren't you?
Yeah, briefly.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. Yeah, I was Jonathan in that show. One of my favorite parts of that show was the makeup. Wendy, do you remember? I think we used.
I wasn't there yet. I came out for Music Man.
And
That was
mind.
McCluskey. McCluskey designed the costumes for that, and I directed it, not Ron.
Oh, sorry, Harold. I thought it was Ron.
Just throwing out. You were always a good student, Matt.
I know, I'm the best. Yeah, but we had like collodion for the scars. It was pretty cool. So yeah, great show. Oh, Mitch was in it. Yeah, Tyler.
Yeah.
I was delighted to be working with Jill again and everybody, but it was great to look at how cute she is. And Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
Dan.
Oh, Dan. Yeah.
Skinny Dan.
There's way more people in this show than I remember.
think a bunch of cops at the end too. That's what helped move some people onto that list of people who were in every show, is those police.
Yeah.
Well, and I only missed Pirates of Penzance because I was supposed to go back to Florida to teach, and got off the plane, couldn't breathe, and said, "This sucks," and packed up my things that night and drove right back to the Playhouse so I could do Mice and Men. I told you I've quit jobs to come work at the Playhouse.
You're not kidding either, are you?
Nope.
Those are great pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are.
I luckily had, because I was designing at the time, I had every CD. I would buy the CD of all the season shows. So I have all the professional photos, I think, from the years that I was out there, all on CD. For those of us who remember the CD, we had to like get out an external CD drive to plug into the computer to be able to download them. But I was really fortunate to have that.
On that point, Wendy, for the 10-year previous ones, we were dealing with all snapshots and digitizing those. So yeah, that was a big upgrade.
If you need, I may have some other years. So if you're missing, I'm happy to go through and upload all of those to Dropbox so that you can have them.
Oh, it'd be a blessing.
Yeah,
I'm sure the
I'll take a look at that.
Association would love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Why don't we shift gears, though, to the first big musical of the summer? And I can't remember who I asked to kick off.
Me.
All right. Let her rip.
Harold, did you direct this, Music Man?
No,
Was it Jan?
I directed Arsenic.
It was Jan, I think. It was Jan.
Or was it Eric Johnson?
You know what, Wendy? I just looked at my list. I want you to talk about costumes.
I'll shut my pie hole then.
Holly is who I asked to kick off.
Sorry, Holly.
I don't want to skip over, because she was Eulalie McKechnie Shin.
Yes, she was.
I played Mayor Shin, not in that production.
That's right.
A couple of years ago, and oh my gosh, what a ball that role is. Balzac, take it away. Tell us what you remember about Music Man, Holly.
This is not going to sound professional at all. The biggest thing that I remember about the Music Man, but I remember about the Music Man is that there were so many people on stage at one point that there was a crowd scene that we were all supposed to come on. And I remember looking at Harold one night and we're like, yeah, they don't know we're not there. We just didn't go on. That's my biggest thing that I remember about that. Yeah, but it was a good time. I remember that. I remember I had a ton of fun. Harold is wonderful to work with. I mean, yes. But that's like my biggest memory of the Music Man is I remember I was like, I don't know what we were doing, but we looked at each other and we're like, yeah, like nobody's even gonna know we're on.
Never mind. All right, and now we're getting a chance to see the scope of the costuming. Why don't you take it from there, Holly? Talk about that challenge.
Oh, you mean Wendy?
Yeah.
Wendy. Yep.
That's okay. I started for Holly, so we're just tapping out and going to take the place. I cannot believe how much we made for this show. Looking at this, and if I remember correctly, we had about 2 weeks to build all of these costumes, and it's shocking how much we built. Like all those vests we built, all the ladies' clothes we built. Spec, I remember working with you to make sure that the skirts for the dancers had all the right kind of movement in it. Yeah. So I love that shot where everybody's bent over and the skirts are beautiful and all the plaids match and all of that. But I do know that and of course her name just flew out of my head because as Fred pointed out earlier today, it might be time for me to have some senior care. Irene from it's the Rapid City Community Playhouse, right? The community one. She built all the hats for me. I talked with her. We collected all the hats between the two places and she went and made all the hats. And we brought them in and we got a bunch of stuff from them. But man, did we make a lot of clothes in this show. And the other thing is at that time, the Black Hills Playhouse had one of the best period stocks for menswear. So we were able to really put it's not time period appropriate, but it looks good enough. And we were able to pull a lot of really good stuff for that. And man, that was fun, but I did not realize there were 50 plus people in that show.
Yep.
Panties at Rage.
And I probably wore them all the time on my head. And thinking about this as I work with costume designers and costume technicians now, they order everything off of Amazon. And I'm like, how about you get off your butt and go to the store?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you can't find it on Amazon, why don't you go to the store? And they're like, the store? And I'm like, yes. In the old days, we had to actually physically go to the store.
Mm-hmm.
So it's crazy. They order everything online. But man, that was a huge show.
I want to share
remember
my
the
recollection of that
costumes.
was playing Charlie Cowell, the guy of the anvil salesman. He's
Yep.
on at the very beginning, and then he comes on at the very end. And I did a number of roles like that out at the Playhouse. But consequently, a lot of that experience, I was off stage and
Yeah.
missed most of it. The other thing I'd like to point out is that the quartet, this was a smart move on Jan's part. That was an existing barbershop quartet that performed together in Rapid City. Amateurs, but they were experienced of singing together, and that can be a hard thing to do the Music Man and get four guys who can make that kind of harmony. What else does anybody have on Music Man? Maybe Kelsey, I didn't ask you to think about this, but that must have been a box office challenge.
Yeah, the musicals were always,
Yeah.
they sold really well, and so we would have a lot of sold out shows and waiting lists and things like that. So that was, I think, always a lot of fun to be able to have it be, we didn't have as much excitement in the ticket office, so a real sold out Saturday night was pretty awesome. My sister was in that show. She was an adolescent at the time, and that was a show that she and her dad got to do together, which I think was a really cool memory for them. It was fun to watch them together.
Harold, you played the mayor, and I played the mayor a couple of years ago. It always bugged me that he came across as the bad guy because he was trying to foil Harold Hill, but he was the one who was right. This guy is a shyster. Any thoughts on
Exactly.
playing Mayor Shin opposite Holly Jacobs?
Well, when I knew, because I knew that you had played it before, and I always just said, well, what would Uncle Fred do in this situation?
I would
you know,
exit promptly.
my performance was a cross between you and Yosemite Sam, which were kind of my role models at that time. So, and then it was just being frustrated with Holly, which is, I mean, you don't have to act that. So,
All right.
I remember the costumes being gorgeous, but so hot. And especially after the shupupi, which is such a long dance. And there's no air conditioning in the theater. And it's 100 degrees outside. And you're on stage and on stage. At some point, we would sneak off during the show to the walk-in refrigerator to cool down and then come back on stage.
That's great. And Wendy invented the ice packs. I've thanked her a million times. All my costumes had little pockets in them for frozen ice packs to help cool you off.
You could that came from working so many different places where you start learning all the tricks about how to keep actors cool. So, yep. Mm-hmm.
And you all know they do have air conditioning out there now. I don't know how effective it is, but yep. God darn it. Communication, they've got the Wi-Fi, they got the AC. These kids nowadays.
Well, and Elizabeth, I think you helped me with choreography quite a bit in that show. Because 50 people on stage and trying to get them to move and where they're going to move, where they're entering, where they're exiting. I remember, well, we still had the old theater back then, but even that space was too small. So we ended up like practicing choreo out in the field.
Or in Hab Hall. Yeah, which was safer than the old theater where if you went too far upstage, you'd fall through the floor.
Right. Kaboom. All right. If you think of something else about this show, just blurt it in later. But let's move on to the other big musical of the summer, which was Pirates of Penzance. And I'd like to turn to Justin first, because he choreographed that one as well. But that's sort of a different style of movement and music. Any thoughts on that experience, Justin?
Well, it was super fun. I remember working with the Pirates the very first time, and I threw out some Thriller choreography, And they all looked at me like I was crazy, and then they just all started laughing, and then we kept it because it was so much fun. You know, when you do a Gilbert and Sullivan like that, there are some quintessential operatic moments that you want to make sure, you keep the flavor and the intent of, of the original. But because it's Pirates and Penzance, I just thought that doing some more modern movement and silly movement that you wouldn't normally see in a show like that would kind of heighten everybody's experience just a little bit and get a little bit more laughter for your buck out of it.
Were you able to work the paddlefish in?
I think we did. Did we not, Harold? Were you a policeman in that?
Yes, it was in there.
Well, and it was for the police, right? Didn't the police do that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we managed to do that. And I'm sure Funk Aerobics was in there too.
Holly, I'm curious if that show had any particular challenge for you. That operatic style, was that new or something that you've done before?
Oh gosh, no, I don't like. I've not. No. See, what's funny with me is that I love music theater, right? But I'm really not a singer. But I did it, right? That was what I did. I sang, but I'm not a singer. But yeah, but I would do anything. Like, okay, theater, this is it. You want me to do this? You bet. Yeah. So of course it was different than anything that I had, opera, that type of style is not anything that I'm used to, but yeah.
That's so funny you would say that, Holly. I think of you absolutely as a singer. Like you in Three Penny, you were so great. And I mean, that's what I would think of you as a singer. That's so funny.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I never thought of myself as a singer. I was always just like an actor that could maybe sort of sing, like I sing, I guess. But yeah.
Well, you fooled us all. Very good.
I never had any like real, like big training in it or whatever. But yeah.
I'm reminded of Christy Breen's comment on the last one, talking about herself not being a singer. And holy cow, between the two of you, can you sell a song? Oh, my goodness.
Well, thank you. That's nice.
And as you looked at the pictures, of course, those were all the brilliant work of Travis Halsey. I can't remember ever having a more delightful costume than that one with the red parasol and the shorts and the garters. Holy moly.
He was a very creative mind. He really, really was. His creativity didn't know any boundaries. And he, from the first moment he walked in at Creighton, you just knew there was something very special about him. And I want to make an apology to him because all those years ago, he was telling me stories of fainting goats, and I wouldn't believe him that they were real. And now that we have the internet, fainting goats are everywhere. And I'm like, Travis, I'm sorry I ever doubted you on fainting goats but he was a very, very special person. So big loss.
And so much fun. I remember like a lot of my memories from that summer are just doing like stupid things with Travis. Like one time he and Mitch and Colleen made me drive them around in somebody had a convertible or something with like a sunroof, and they were wearing boas, and they just like made me drive them around so that they could wave at people. And I have no idea what the purpose of it was at all. They just said, and it was like the middle of the day. They just wanted a parade.
Oh, they're having a parade. Sure. That makes perfect sense.
Like a one person, and he would be like, Mitch, get in here.
I remember trying not to get paint on Travis's beautiful costumes because those rocks, do you remember those rocks? They were still wet. Like we ran out of paint and we were trying to paint the rocks of Valerie Light's set, which was gorgeous, but the paint was still wet for Camp Preview. And we had those giant skirts on and we were trying to like get up. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Holly and Cassie? Yes. And like, I can't get paint on this costume or Travis is going to be mad at me. But the paint was still wet during the show. I think then we painted again after the show, before opening night.
That set was legendary for being massive and difficult to get done. That's for sure. Beautiful, but very, very challenging to accomplish. And anything else on Pirates, Jason?
Well, just that Val was an undergraduate, and that was her first design at the Playhouse.
Wow.
She was an Anne Mundell student.
Okay. Who, by the way, was on the 1993 panel as well. Well, let's shift gears. The last show of the season was a real change of pace after two great, enormous musicals, a gorgeous production of Mice and Men, and we have with us the one of the two leads. And so we'll hear from him for sure. But Jason had a wonderful performance in Of Mice and Men as well. So maybe you could kick us off. Go ahead.
My biggest memory of that was when I quit the job, and I had told Jan I couldn't do the role because I had to go down to Florida and work. And then called him up and said, "Hey, I actually just quit my job. Can I come and play that role?" Because he was going to take it, and he said, "I don't care." But I remember that I had to on stage fall asleep. And a couple of nights, because of my nocturnal habits at the Playhouse, I did fall asleep. And waking up on stage and not being real sure where you are is absolutely terrifying.
The actor's nightmare.
Yeah. Do not recommend. But there was I quit a job again to come back and do that show again. Matt was absolutely fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And Speck is Curly. What an asshole.
That was a really, really strong show. That show was really something. Not only was it visually stunning, that cast was so strong and everyone knew what they were doing. And Matt, that's probably the best performance I ever saw from you in all the years. You just broke my heart every night. That was such a very special thing to be a part of.
Yeah, very much is still like one of my favorite shows that I've ever done. And like you said, like the cast on that show was incredible. Everybody from Dan to Reuter to Colleen, and Justin, of course, just a really, really solid show.
And that gorgeous, simple structural set.
Yep.
And the lighting, as we can see.
Who did the lights for that, Fred?
That was John Wiley. That was
Wiley.
John Wiley, Tim Case, and me. Mm-hmm. And to this day, we love this one.
Yeah.
Tim Case taught me the best scenic technique on that show, because remember, they pulled as much barnwood from the community as they could.
Yeah.
But when they ran out, he taught us how to pickle wood.
Yep.
Using the pig iron and vinegar.
Yep.
And spells, I use it to this day.
Yeah. It was a great show. Really great show.
What a powerhouse.
I'm enjoying these pictures so much. Mark, you're doing great. And again, thanks, Wendy, for finding that CD-ROM.
Yeah.
Oh,
thank God for the old technology.
Yeah.
One of the cool things about that set too is there was a little pond built into it. I remember accidentally stepping into it one night. But yeah, that was a great set. Great show. Love that show.
And both Mark and I are breathing a sigh of relief. We have no more audiovisual technological things to think about. So it's just chit chat now. We've got two things to go. We've got about 13 minutes and we'll be under time. So we're doing just fantastic. The reunion theme, I'm not going to call on everybody, and please don't everybody chip in. But the reunion theme is what the Playhouse did for me. And if anybody would like to share, raise your hand and we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Hey, hold on for a second. Hey, Fred, there are some camp shots.
I forgot. Thank you for reminding me. Let's go
go through those right now.
And then we'll come to Wendy and Holly. Oh, no, completely my mistake. Let's do that. Yep. And Wendy, I think, was anticipating that we would go right into that. I just forgot. Roll it. Yeah, we just had some fun. This will just take a second because we did some very fun photos. So if you've got those ready to roll, Wendy, why don't you tell us
Give
about
me a quick second.
Parties and prom as Mark is getting loaded.
When this call came through, I was like, my God, what photos do I have? And none of them from this time were digital. They were all, we took the pictures, developed the film, and saw what you got. And do you have both sets or just the prom?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, no.
And
I missed
kudos
the
to
pit.
Deb Curtin Workman, who put together the videoizing of these still shots.
So this is the Music Man opening night where we had it up at the Peaceful Pines, which is what I think they call staff now, but Caraclio and I named it the Peaceful Pines, and we brought in all the straw and we were all out there. Yeah. Outside. Gosh, those were so much fun.
Those hay bales were from my dad's place.
Oh my God. Did we go out and get those, Justin?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
We did. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And then prom. And I don't remember whose idea it was to do prom, but these are hysterical.
Myrna was the prom queen.
She was the prom queen. So Crackleo and I were the chaperones, and there's Travis. and yeah, and Colleen was the pregnant bad girl. And yeah.
She looks sad about it.
Yeah.
I actually
she had a. Go ahead.
I have a somebody must have had like an instant camera, right? Like I have a little instant camera picture of myself and Rusty Starfish, who is my prom date. And so we must have had pictures like this that were taken on an instant camera. Does that sound right?
I've got one of me and Val, a little Polaroid.
Yeah. You got to pose with your date and then you got to take them home. I still have it upstairs, me and Rusty.
Do you remember when in the season that happened, Wendy? Because I did.
That was after Of Mice and Men. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I was a long gone. But...
Yeah. So
well,
I
Wendy,
think that
why
was
don't
a
you
little
keep
levity to the big downer that show, or
Oh yeah.
how sad that show was at the end. So yeah.
Wendy, why don't you keep the floor and share what the Playhouse did for me? And Harold, can you mute again, Harold? Here we go.
The Playhouse says, just to let you all know, I have told my husband that when I die, I will be cremated and I will be sprinkled from the needles at night. And so that's how special South Dakota is to me. And and I will haunt his ass if he does not do that. He knows that. But it's all the people, all of you, working with all of you is so fantastic, and all the other people that we've met and the careers. But Reuter, you were talking about it earlier. We learned how to make something from nothing. And through every stage of my career to this point now, I still do that every day. I'm like, you don't need that thing. What you need is this. And we did it all together and we collaborated together. And there's none of this in running a theater. That's a lighting problem. That's a sound problem. No, it's all of our problem. Because at the Playhouse, we did it all together and we did it so fast that I know it can be done. And so now when I work with these young people like you're talking about, or hire people who've never done summer stock, who've never traveled for their job, who've never had the opportunity to create something so beautiful as a part of a team, I'm like, I'm very sad for you, because that's what I hold in my heart. And Mark and I always talk about how much the Playhouse means to us. And I want to just end with memories of riding Eric Johnson's car down from the Peaceful Pines to dinner every night when we would just get a ride, and how much I miss Eric too. He was so fantastic and so much fun and could make you laugh at any moment. And what a wonderful human being who's very, very
I forgot
nice.
seeing him cruise down to dinner every night.
Oh, he loved riding every single different car he ever had. He's like, get on the hood, let's go. So
that is fantastic. And Holly, I think you had a thought to share.
The only thing I wanted to say that, for real, the Playhouse has done for me is that as a person that didn't even realize that I did suffers from anxiety, I'm an anxiety ridden person, had no idea that I was until I got older, right? What the Playhouse did for me is gave me confidence in myself that I never dreamt that I would ever have. And it came from the top all the way down to the people that were there with me. That's the most supportive place that I've ever been. And I feel like because of that support and because of those friendships and because of people believing in me, I believed in myself, and which changed the trajectory of my entire life, which I'm doing things I never dreamt that I could do because of being at a place at such a pivotal time in my life that people were so supportive. So that's what it's done for me. So I thank you all.
Thank you. Anyone else? If something occurs to you, we'll come back to you, but we're going to be kind of wrapping up here with a kind of an open floor. Any closing thoughts? And one thing, and then Jenny Megan, I'll turn it over to you to really wrap up for good. One closing thought I'd like to share is to remember an actor, a good friend of mine, who was there for probably 10 years, missed these landmark oral history years, but his name was Kim Detweiler. And I just wanted to make sure his name is not forgotten. What a talent. What a great guy. And I miss him. Any other closing thoughts in general?
I wish that we had an unrecorded version of this, because honestly, looking at all the pictures, like all the stories I want to tell are the ones that I feel like in the instructions you were like, do not tell those stories. Like I kept seeing people and I'm being like, oh, right, that guy, and so there needs to be an off the record oral history, I feel like.
That would be hilarious. That's a great idea, actually.
Oral history uncensored.
Yeah, exactly.
I felt the same way on the last one when I was putting together videos and stuff, because I have so much stuff of parties and stuff in the pit and Jello shots.
Oh yeah, you with your camcorder in the pit probably have recorded so many things that
probably not what you want to have
with.
in the have on YouTube as the official memory of the Playhouse. That was an important part of it, but you wouldn't want to think that that was the main thing. It was about the art and the community. All right, I think we have about 4 minutes. I'm going to turn it back over to Jenny May to wrap us up with any closing thoughts from the Alumni Association, and then I think we're going to be done. Take it away, Jenny May.
Oh, thank you, Uncle Fred. What a wonderful job. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. And we are, and we're so lucky that we have the Playhouse and how it formed all of our lives in different ways. And what a great blessing to have lived in these little bubbles of theater that we get to tell stories to the audience. And I guess something that I always, when I get back home to the Playhouse, whether I'm in the show or watching the show, it's a South Dakota audience, which has a way different feel than anywhere else I've worked. And I know that audience works hard to get there, to get to the Playhouse, and they have been instrumental. And that's what Hot Springs taught me, was really instrumental. All the big wigs in Hot Springs, the doctors, everybody supported Doc Lee, and Doc Lee built that community of people by touring to all those towns and was and gave us that audience. And this was something that was so new in the beginning that my grandparents, so I'm like, wow, my grandparents, all those different communities blossomed with what Doc gave us. And then we got to go in and speak to that South Dakota audience that had never seen anything like it and often has never seen anything like it. And I applaud you all for your work on the stage and in the stage to make that realization. So Harold's going to, I think, say something. And I wanted to say, if you are not getting the newsletter, please make sure that Mark Mearsman has your email. And please try your best to come to the reunion and let me know if you're coming, and we'll figure out something fun to do with you. And thank you all again for your support of the Playhouse. And I think Harold won. Harold, what we played on the road laying down where we threw, in the middle of the night, we threw rocks and sticks?
That's called Rocks and Cups. And Holly is a big cheater at the game.
Oh, never. Heads up.
Fun game. Remember?
Rocks
all right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
There's only one way to finish, and you can linger a little bit, but Mark, get ready to stop recording. You know the magic words. Get out of here.
Devolve into chaos.
That's right. Mm-hmm.